I was sitting on the couch with my 6-year-old son Danny, watching him cry for the 20th minute straight, when his tablet pinged. He had been sobbing quietly ever since my father called an hour ago to say he couldn't make it to Danny's birthday party tomorrow because money was tight. I had been consoling him, explaining that sometimes adults face hard choices. Then I glanced at Danny's screen, and my heart stopped. A Facebook live stream notification. My sister Grace's account. And there was my father, grinning inside a massive bounce house, surrounded by clowns and mountains of wrapped gifts. My hands started shaking as I grabbed the tablet from Danny's lap. The live stream was happening right now, this very moment, while my son sat here with tears streaming down his cheeks. I watched my father laughing, his face red with joy, as Grace's 7-year-old twins jumped around him in the bounce house. The camera panned across tables stacked with presents. I saw gaming consoles still in their boxes, shiny new bicycles with enormous red bows, remote control cars, and what looked like at least 50 wrapped gifts piled high. The comments section scrolled rapidly. People congratulating my father, calling him Grandpa of the Year. Someone wrote, "This is what family looks like." End of chapter. Another comment read, "These kids are so lucky to have you." My stomach turned. Just 3 hours ago, my father had called me with that somber tone, the one he used when he wanted sympathy. He had said, "Ernesto, I'm really sorry, but I can't make it to Danny's party tomorrow. Money's been real tight lately. The bills are piling up, and I just can't afford a gift right now. I hope you understand." I had understood. My mother died 2 years ago from cancer, and I knew the medical bills had devastated him. That was why I had been sending him $1,500 every single month to help with his rent. For 24 months straight, I had sent that money without fail, even when it meant I had to eat ramen noodles for dinner and skip buying myself new work boots when mine wore through. Danny looked up at me with those big brown eyes. "Dad? Why is Grandpa at Auntie Grace's house?" I thought he said he was too tired to come to my party. I couldn't speak. My throat had closed up with rage. I kept watching the live stream. My father picked up a microphone someone handed him. "I just want to thank everyone for coming to celebrate Mason and Madison's birthday." His voice boomed through the speakers. "I was happy to pay for this whole party because these kids mean the world to me. We got the bounce house, the petting zoo, the clowns, the magician, and even a professional photographer to capture every moment. A petting zoo, a magician, a professional photographer. The man who told me he couldn't afford a $10 toy for my son had just admitted to funding an extravaganza that must have cost thousands of dollars." I scrolled back through Grace's Facebook page. She had been posting about the party for weeks. The planning, the excitement, the vendor bookings. My father had commented on every single post with heart emojis and promises that it would be the best birthday ever. Danny tugged on my sleeve. "Can we go there? Can we surprise them?" "No, buddy," I said, my voice coming out strangled. "We're not invited." "But why?" "They're our family." I didn't have an answer for that. Not one that a 6-year-old would understand. I waited until 9 o'clock that night. The live stream had ended hours ago, but I had watched every second of it. I saw my father hand out those expensive gifts. I saw him cutting the enormous 3-tier cake. I saw him playing games with the twins. His face lit up with pure joy, a kind of joy I couldn't remember ever seeing when he looked at Danny. I drove to his house in silence, gripping the steering wheel so hard, my knuckles went white. His car was in the driveway. A car I noticed was much newer than the beat-up sedan he claimed was on its last legs. He answered the door in a good mood, still wearing the party hat from earlier. "Ernesto, what brings you by?" "We need to talk," I said, pushing past him into the living room. "Is everything okay? Is Danny all right?" Danny's heartbroken. He spent the whole evening crying because his grandpa was too broke to come to his birthday party. My father's face changed. The smile dropped away. "Now, son, let me explain." "Explain what?" "Explain how you're too poor to buy my kid a birthday present but rich enough to rent a petting zoo?" He sighed and sat down heavily on his recliner. It's complicated. Make it simple. Grace needed this. Her ex-husband doesn't help out much, and those kids deserve to have good memories. You're a man, Ernesto. You can handle things on your own. Grace needs me more. I felt like he had punched me in the chest. I've been giving you $1,500 a month for 2 years, and I appreciate that. Where's that money going? He looked away. That's my business. It's my business when I'm the one earning it. When I'm skipping meals to make sure you have a roof over your head. Nobody asked you to do that, he snapped. That was your choice. You told me you were struggling. You told me you couldn't afford rent. I was struggling. Things are better now. When did things get better? He shifted in his seat. Look, I've been saving some of what you give me, setting it aside for emergencies. And I wanted to do something nice for Grace and the twins. She's had a hard time since the divorce. So you lied to me. I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you everything. You lied to Danny. You broke his heart. My father stood up, his face hardening. You want the truth? Fine. Grace's kids are easier to love. They're well-behaved. They listen. They're respectful. Danny's different. He's too quiet, too sensitive, always crying about something. And honestly, you should be man enough to handle your own kid's birthday without needing your father to show up and hold your hand. The words hit me like a slap. I stood there, unable to move, unable to process what I had just heard. Plus, he continued, you're a grown man with a job. You don't need my help. Grace is struggling. She deserves the support more than you do. I turned and walked out without another word. I got in my car and drove home in a daze. When I got back to my apartment, Danny was already asleep. I sat at the kitchen table and stared at the wall for an hour. Then, I remembered. My father always paid his rent 6 months in advance. He had given me a check 2 weeks ago for next month's rent, dated for the 1st of the month, $1,500. I kept it in my desk drawer until it was time to deposit it. I pulled out the check and looked at it. $1,500 that I had earned working overtime shifts at the auto parts store. Money I had scraped together while eating cheap food and wearing clothes with holes in them. Money I gave freely because I thought my father needed it. I grabbed a thick black marker and wrote across the front of the check in huge letters, "Return to sender." Then I took a photo of it with my phone. I opened Facebook and posted the image publicly. I wrote, "For everyone who saw Dad's generous party today, this is the rent money he claimed he couldn't afford. He can't afford my son's birthday, but he can afford a petting zoo. Check returned. Figure it out yourself." I hit post and went to bed. I woke up at 8 in the morning to the sound of pounding on my door. Loud, aggressive, relentless pounding that shook the frame. "Ernesto, open this door right now." My father's voice, angrier than I had ever heard it. I looked through the peephole. He was red-faced, sweating, furious. A few neighbors had opened their doors and were watching from their doorways. The pounding continued. "I know you're in there. Open up." I stood there watching him through the peephole for 25 minutes. He pounded and shouted. He threatened. He pleaded. He went back to threatening. Finally, he stormed off to his car and drove away. I checked my phone. 73 notifications on Facebook. My stomach sank as I started reading them. My sister Grace had commented first. "How dare you do this to Dad? He's done nothing but love and support you your entire life. And this is how you repay him? You're cruel and vindictive." My Aunt Carol. "This is disgusting behavior. Your father is an old man who doesn't deserve this treatment." My Uncle Frank. "You should be ashamed of yourself, trying to make your father homeless out of jealousy." Cousin after cousin piled on. The comments grew worse as I scrolled. People I hadn't spoken to in years were calling me selfish, petty, ungrateful, immature. Then I saw my father's post, made an hour after mine. My blood ran cold as I read it. With a heavy heart, I need to share what happened. My son Ernesto has decided to cut off all financial support and return the money I needed for rent. Why? Because I went to my granddaughter's birthday party yesterday. He's upset that I spent time with his sister's children and has decided to punish me for it. I offered to come to his son's party, but he uninvited me out of spite. I'm facing homelessness because my own son is jealous that I have a relationship with my other grandchildren. I raised him better than this. I don't know what happened to the kind boy I used to know. Please keep me in your prayers during this difficult time. The post had 200 likes and 90 comments, all sympathetic to him, all painting me as the villain. I tried to comment with the truth, but every time I posted, 5 family members would attack me. They called me a liar. They said I was making excuses. They said I was trying to destroy an old man because I couldn't handle him loving other people. I called Grace. She answered on the first ring. "You've got some nerve calling me," she hissed. "Grace, that's not what happened. I don't want to hear it. Dad told me everything. You've been controlling him, manipulating him, making him feel guilty for spending time with anyone but you and Danny. That's insane. I've been supporting him financially for 2 years because you wanted to control him. He told me how you hold that money over his head, how you make him feel like he owes you. He told me he couldn't afford Danny's birthday party. Then I watched him fund a $5,000 party for your kids. And those are his grandchildren too. He's allowed to spend his money however he wants." "His money? Grace, where do you think that money came from?" She was quiet for a moment. "I don't know what you're talking about. The money he spent on your party, it came from me. Every month I send him $1,500. That's where he got the money to pay for your bounce house and your petting zoo." "That's not true. Dad has his own money." "From where? His Social Security barely covers his groceries." "I'm not doing this with you, Ernesto. You're just jealous because Dad actually likes my kids." She hung up. I sat there staring at my phone as more notifications poured in. My father had shared my post with his own commentary, twisting every word to make himself look like the victim. That afternoon, he showed up at my workplace. I was helping a customer when I saw him through the window, walking toward the entrance of the auto parts store. My boss, Mr. Henshaw, was at the register. My father went straight to him. "I need to speak to Ernesto," my father said loudly. Several customers turned to look. "I'm with someone," I called out. "I'll be with you in a minute." "No, you'll come here right now." My father's voice rose. "This is family business." Mr. Henshaw looked uncomfortable. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to wait outside if you're going to cause a disturbance." "A disturbance? My son is trying to make me homeless and I'm causing a disturbance?" He started crying. Right there in the store, in front of a dozen customers, my father broke down in theatrical sobs. "I'm an old man. I just buried my wife 2 years ago. And now my son wants to throw me out on the street because I went to a birthday party." 2 customers, both older women, immediately went to comfort him. They shot me disgusted looks. Mr. Henshaw pulled me aside. "Take your break. Handle this. And Ernesto, keep your family drama away from my store." I walked outside with my father. As soon as we were in the parking lot and away from witnesses, his tears stopped instantly. "You embarrassed me yesterday," he said coldly. "That post made me look bad in front of my friends. You lied to me." "I didn't lie about anything. I made a choice about how to spend my money, and you threw a tantrum like a child. That was my money." "No, you gave it to me. Once you give a gift, it's not yours anymore. You don't get to control how I use it. Then you don't get any more gifts." He smiled, but it wasn't a nice smile. "We'll see about that." He walked away. I went back inside. Mr. Henshaw was waiting for me. "Everything okay?" he asked. "It's fine. Family stuff. Listen, I like you, Ernesto. You're a good worker. But I can't have this kind of thing happening here. It makes customers uncomfortable. It's bad for business. I understand. It won't happen again, but I had a sinking feeling that it was only beginning." That night, after I put Danny to bed, I checked my bank account to transfer some money for groceries. My heart stopped. The joint account I had with my father, the one we opened when my mother got sick for emergency medical expenses, was empty. All $6,000 gone. I called the bank. They confirmed that my father had withdrawn the entire amount that morning. Legally, he was allowed to. It was a joint account. I had completely forgotten about that account. After Mom died, I just kept depositing money into it occasionally, thinking of it as a safety net. $6,000 that I needed desperately. Danny had asthma. His inhaler prescriptions cost $200 a month. His nebulizer treatments, his specialist appointments, his emergency room visits when he had attacks. I had been saving that money specifically for his medical needs. Gone. I called my father. He answered on the second ring. You took the money from the joint account. My money. Joint account means it belongs to both of us. I need that for Danny's medical expenses. You should have thought of that before you tried to humiliate me online. You wanted to cut me off? Fine. I'm taking what's mine. That money was for family emergencies. You made it clear you're not family anymore. That's not fair. Life's not fair, son. You're learning that now. He hung up. I sat there in the dark, trying not to panic. $6,000. Gone. My safety net. Vanished. There was a knock on my door at 9 o'clock. I opened it to find a woman in a business suit holding a folder. Ernesto Martinez? She asked. Yes. I'm Patricia Sullivan, attorney for Grace Martinez. I'm here to serve you these papers. She handed me the folder and walked away. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a legal notice. Grace was threatening to sue me for elder financial abuse and emotional distress on behalf of our father. The letter claimed I had been manipulating and controlling his finances, that I had coerced him into accepting money so I could hold it over his head, and that my social media post constituted defamation and harassment. The letter demanded that I pay $12,000 in restitution for the emotional harm I had caused, and that I continue paying his rent indefinitely. $12,000 I didn't have. For emotional harm I didn't cause. I couldn't breathe. The walls felt like they were closing in. The lawsuit threat was just the beginning. Over the next week, the family warfare exploded across social media like a wildfire. My father's friends, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, even people I had gone to high school with and hadn't spoken to in 15 years, everyone had an opinion about what a terrible person I was. My Aunt Carol posted a long status about how disappointed she was in me, how my mother would be ashamed. Uncle Frank shared articles about elder abuse with comments like, "Some people should never have children." My cousin Jessica, who I used to play with as a kid, posted a photo of my father looking sad with the caption, "Justice for Grandpa Joe." Every single post tagged me. Every single notification was another knife in my back. I tried to defend myself a few times. I posted bank statements showing the money I had sent. I posted screenshots of my father's text messages asking for help. But it didn't matter. For every piece of evidence I showed, Grace had a counter-story. She claimed I had forged the screenshots. She said I was manipulating the narrative. She said I was having a breakdown and needed professional help. The worst part was watching people I thought were my friends hit the like button on posts attacking me. People who had been to my house, who had met Danny, who knew me. They all believed my father's version. I stopped looking at social media. I deleted the apps from my phone, but the damage was done. On Wednesday, my father showed up at the auto parts store again. This time he was calmer, more strategic. He waited until Mr. Henshaw was talking to a supplier in the back office. Then he approached me. "I need to talk to you," he said quietly. "I'm working. This will only take a minute." He looked around to make sure no one was listening. "Drop the attitude, keep sending the money, and I'll call off Grace's lawyer. We can pretend this whole thing never happened." "You mean pretend you didn't steal $6,000 from me? Pretend you didn't lie about being poor while throwing $1,000 parties?" "I didn't steal anything. That was joint money. And I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you everything. There's a difference. Get out." His face hardened. "You're making a mistake. The only mistake I made was trusting you." He left, but not before stopping to chat with Mr. Henshaw on his way out. I couldn't hear what they said, but I saw Mr. Henshaw glance at me with concern. On Thursday, 2 police officers walked into the store. My stomach dropped. "We're looking for Ernesto Martinez," one of them said. "That's me. We need to ask you some questions. Can you step outside?" My hands were shaking as I followed them to the parking lot. Customers stared. Mr. Henshaw looked alarmed. "We received a report that you've been withholding financial support from your father and that you may have taken money that belongs to him," the officer said. "He's filed a complaint, claiming you stole his rent money." "I didn't steal anything. I was giving him money as a gift, and I stopped giving it." "Do you have proof that it was a gift?" "I have bank transfers showing I sent him the money." "That doesn't prove it was a gift. He's claiming you were holding his money for him, and now you're refusing to give it back." "That's not true. We're not here to determine who's right or wrong. We're just following up on the complaint." "Do you have any documentation showing that the money was yours to give?" I didn't know what to say. I had never thought I would need documentation to prove I was helping my own father. "We're going to file this report," the officer said. "If your father decides to press charges, you may be contacted again. We recommend you resolve this family matter privately if possible." They left. I stood there in the parking lot, humiliated, as customers watched through the windows. Mr. Henshaw called me into his office when my shift ended. "Ernesto, I need to talk to you about something serious." I knew what was coming. "I got a complaint from 3 customers today. They said having police show up made them uncomfortable. One of them said she doesn't feel safe shopping here anymore if we have employees with legal troubles." "I don't have legal troubles." "It's a misunderstanding. I believe you. I do. But I have to think about the business. This is the second time your father has caused a scene here. Now police are involved. I have customers threatening to shop elsewhere." "Mr. Henshaw, please, I need this job." He looked genuinely sorry. "I'm letting you go, effective immediately. I'll pay you through the end of the week, but I can't have this kind of drama affecting my store. I'm sorry." I walked out of there in a daze. 7 years I had worked at that store. 7 years of showing up on time, working overtime, covering shifts for other people. Gone in an instant because my father decided to destroy me. I drove home and sat in my car for 20 minutes before I could bring myself to go inside. Danny was with a neighbor who watched him after school. I had 2 hours before I needed to pick him up. 2 hours to figure out how to tell my son that I had lost my job, that we might lose our apartment, that everything was falling apart. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Is this Ernesto Martinez?" A woman's voice. "Yes. This is Susan Chen from Riverside Elementary. I'm the school counselor. I wanted to reach out because Danny's teacher has expressed some concerns." My heart sank. "What kind of concerns?" "Danny's been very withdrawn this week. He's not participating in class. He's not playing with the other kids at recess. When Mrs. Patterson asked him if everything was okay at home, he started crying and wouldn't talk about it. He's going through a hard time right now. Family stuff. I understand. But I think it would be beneficial for Danny to talk to someone. I'd like to set up some counseling sessions with him, if that's all right with you." "That's fine. Whatever he needs. There is a cost involved. Our school counseling program charges $50 per session, and I recommend at least 6 sessions to start. $300. Money I didn't have. Money I would have had if my father hadn't emptied our joint account." "I'll figure it out," I said. "There are payment plans available if that helps." "Thank you." I hung up and put my head in my hands. My son needed therapy because of this nightmare, and I couldn't even afford to give it to him. When I picked Danny up from the neighbor's house, he was quiet. He usually chattered about his day, about what he learned, about what games he played at recess. But today he just held my hand and walked silently to our apartment. "How was school, buddy?" I asked. "Fine." "Just fine?" He nodded. "Want to tell me about it?" He shook his head. We got home and he went straight to his room. I made spaghetti for dinner, his favorite, but he barely touched it. "Danny, talk to me. What's wrong?" He looked up at me with those big eyes filled with tears. "Am I hard to love?" The question felt like a punch to the gut. What? No, of course not. You're the easiest person in the world to love. Then why doesn't Grandpa want me? I didn't know how to answer that. How do you tell a 6-year-old that his grandfather is cruel and selfish? How do you explain that some people play favorites with their grandchildren? Grandpa has some problems, buddy. But they're his problems, not yours. You are perfect exactly the way you are. Mason and Madison got a big party. I saw it on Auntie Grace's phone. There were clowns and animals, and a big castle to jump in. I know. Why did they get that and I didn't? Because life isn't always fair. But I'm good. I'm really good. I clean my room and I do my homework, and I don't cry that much anymore. That's when I realized. He thought this was his fault. He thought if he was better behaved, if he was less sensitive, if he was more like his cousins, then his grandfather would love him. I pulled him into my lap and held him tight. Listen to me. This has nothing to do with you. Nothing. You are kind and smart and brave and wonderful. If Grandpa can't see that, then he's missing out. Not you. He cried into my shirt for a long time. I held him and felt my own tears falling, but I tried to hide them. I had to be strong for him. There was a knock on the door. A firm, official knock. I settled Danny on the couch and went to answer it. Standing there was a woman I hadn't seen in 3 years. Corinne, Danny's mother, my ex-wife. She looked the same. Blonde hair, thin face, expensive clothes. She left us when Danny was 3 years old. Said she wasn't ready to be a mother. Said she needed to find herself. She paid the minimum child support required by law and sent birthday cards twice a year. "Hello, Ernesto," she said. "What are you doing here? I need to talk to you. Can I come in?" "No." She sighed. "I was hoping we could do this civilly." "Do what?" She pulled papers from her purse. "Your father and your sister contacted me. They're worried about Danny. They told me about the situation, about your recent behavior, about the instability." "What situation? What behavior?" "The social media posts. The police showing up at your work. The threats against your elderly father. They showed me everything, Ernesto. They're concerned that you're creating a toxic environment for Danny. That's not what's happening. I've filed for emergency custody. The hearing is in 10 days. I think it's best if Danny comes to stay with me until you get yourself sorted out." I couldn't breathe. "You can't be serious." "I'm very serious. Your father was kind enough to provide some evidence of your recent behavior. Recorded phone calls where you're screaming and making threats. Text messages where you're being aggressive and unstable. Those are edited. He's manipulating you. I have a lawyer. I have evidence. And I have genuine concern for my son's well-being. The court will decide what's best for Danny." She handed me the papers and walked away. I stood there holding papers that could take away the only thing that mattered to me, my son. The next morning, I woke up to 57 new Facebook notifications. I had deleted the app, but people were emailing me screenshots of new posts from family members. My Aunt Carol had written a long post about how family loyalty was the most important thing in the world, and how heartbreaking it was to watch someone turn their back on the man who raised them. She included photos of me as a child with my father, with captions like, "He used to be such a sweet boy. What happened?" Uncle Frank shared a news article about financial elder abuse, with a comment that said, "This is exactly what Ernesto is doing to his father. Someone needs to stop him before it's too late." My cousin David, who I hadn't spoken to in 8 years, posted a long rant about how I was an embarrassment to the family name, and how I should be ashamed to call myself a Martinez. Every post was public. Every post was shared dozens of times. Every post made me look like a monster. And the worst part? People who didn't even know me were commenting. Friends of friends. Strangers. They were all weighing in on my character based on one-sided stories, from people who had their own agendas. Danny came out of his bedroom rubbing his eyes. "Dad, I'm hungry." I made him breakfast and got him ready for school. As we were walking to the bus stop, 2 of the neighborhood kids pointed at Danny and whispered to each other. One of them, a boy named Tyler, who Danny usually played with, ran away when we got close. "Tyler, Danny called out. "Wait up." Tyler's mom grabbed his hand and pulled him in the other direction. She looked at me with disgust and hurried away. Danny's face crumpled. "Why won't Tyler play with me?" "I don't know, buddy." But I did know. Word had spread through the neighborhood. The parents had seen the social media posts. They believed I was unstable, aggressive, abusive, and now they were teaching their children to avoid my son. I dropped Danny off at the bus stop and watched him climb onto the bus alone, sitting by himself in a seat, while other kids laughed and talked in groups. My heart broke for him. At home, I tried to job search online, but I couldn't focus. The custody hearing was in 9 days. I needed a lawyer, but every family law attorney I called wanted a retainer of at least $3,000, money I absolutely did not have. My phone rang. I looked at the screen. "Grace," I answered. "What do you want?" "I wanted to give you a chance to make this right," she said. "Dad's willing to drop everything if you apologize publicly, return his rent money, and agree to continue supporting him." "No, Ernesto, Corinne's custody petition is real. Do you want to lose Danny? You're the one who called her. You did this." "I called her because I'm worried about my nephew. He doesn't deserve to be caught in the middle of your breakdown." "I'm not having a breakdown." "Really? You lost your job. You're fighting with the whole family. You're making threats online. That sounds like a breakdown to me. The only threat I made was to stop giving away money I earned." "That's not how Dad tells it." "Of course it's not. He's been lying about everything." Grace was quiet for a moment. "I don't want this to go to court. I really don't. But if you force Dad to go through with the lawsuit, and if Corinne gets custody of Danny, that's on you. You could stop all of this right now by just admitting you were wrong and making things right." "I wasn't wrong." "Then you're going to lose everything." She hung up. I sat there staring at the wall, trying to figure out what to do. I had no job, no money, no support system. My entire family had turned against me, and in 9 days, I might lose my son. That afternoon, I got a call from Danny's school. "Mr. Martinez, this is Principal Brennan. I need you to come to the school right away. There's been an incident with Danny." I drove there faster than I should have. When I got to the principal's office, Danny was sitting in a chair with his head down. His teacher, Mrs. Patterson, was there, along with Principal Brennan. "What happened?" I asked. "Danny got into a physical altercation with another student during lunch," Principal Brennan said. "Danny doesn't fight. He's never been in a fight. According to witnesses, another student made a comment about you, and Danny pushed him down." I knelt in front of Danny. "Buddy, what happened?" Danny's lip was trembling. "Tyler said you're a bad man. He said his mom said you hurt old people. I told him that's not true, and he laughed at me. He said everyone knows you're mean, so I pushed him." My heart shattered. My 6-year-old son, the gentlest kid I knew, had gotten into a fight defending me against lies spread by adults who should have known better. "I understand this is a difficult time for your family," Principal Brennan said, "but we have a zero-tolerance policy for violence. Danny is suspended for 3 days. He was defending himself. Defending me." He put his hands on another student. "I don't have a choice. I took Danny home." He cried the whole way, not because he was in trouble, but because he was ashamed that he hadn't been able to make the other kids understand that I wasn't a bad person. "It's okay," I told him. "You don't have to defend me, but they're lying about you." "I know, but fighting won't change their minds." "Then, what will?" I didn't have an answer. That evening, there was another knock on my door. I opened it to find my landlord, Mr. Garrett. He was an older man, kind usually, someone I had never had a problem with. "Ernesto, we need to talk," he said. "About what?" "I got a call from your father yesterday. He told me about your situation." My stomach dropped. "What situation?" "He said you've been going through some mental health struggles, that you lost your job, that there's been some violence. He's worried you might be dangerous." "That's not true. None of that's true." I also got a call from 2 other tenants in the building. "They've seen the police here. They're uncomfortable. They want to know if they're safe. I'm not dangerous. This is all a misunderstanding. I'm sure it is. But I have to think about all my tenants. And with you losing your job, I'm concerned about your ability to pay rent. I'll find another job. I'm giving you notice. 30 days. I need you to find another place. You're evicting me? I'm choosing not to renew your month-to-month lease. That's legal. I'm sorry, Ernesto. I like you. But I can't have drama in my building. He walked away. I closed the door and leaned against it. 30 days to find a new apartment with no job, no money, and a custody battle looming. I called my father. He answered on the first ring, and I could hear the satisfaction in his voice. "What do you want?" he asked. "You called my landlord." "I called a friend from church. I wanted to make sure he knew what was going on with one of his tenants." "That's just being a good neighbor. You're destroying my life." "No, son. You're destroying your own life. All you had to do was keep your mouth shut and keep sending the money. But you had to make a scene. You had to embarrass me in front of my friends. So now, you're learning what happens when you cross me. This is about money? That's all this is? This is about respect. You disrespected me. Now you're paying the price. I'm losing my home. I'm losing my son. Then, you should have thought of that before you decided to be stubborn." He hung up. I sank to the floor with my back against the door. Danny was in his room, probably still crying. I had failed him in every possible way. I looked at my phone, at the Facebook app I had deleted, at the email notifications still coming in, at the messages from family members calling me terrible things. I looked at the custody papers on my coffee table, at the eviction notice Mr. Garrett had handed me, at my empty bank account on my phone screen. I had nothing left to lose except Danny, and I was about to lose him too. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, running through every possible scenario in my head. Could I represent myself in court? Could I find a free legal aid lawyer? Could I somehow prove that the recordings my father had given Corinne were edited and taken out of context? At 2 a.m, I heard Danny crying in his room. I went in and found him sitting up in bed. "Dad," he said, "are you going to send me away?" "What?" "No. Never. I heard you on the phone. You said something about losing me." I sat on his bed and pulled him close. "I'm not going to lose you. I promise. But what if Mom takes me? That's not going to happen. She doesn't even like me. She left because of me." "No, buddy. She left because of her own problems. Not because of you." "Then why does she want me now?" That was a good question. Corinne had shown zero interest in being a mother for 3 years. Why now? And then it hit me. My father. He had convinced her that this was her chance to hurt me. He had probably promised her something, money, maybe, or just the satisfaction of watching me suffer. "I don't know why she's doing this," I told Danny, "but I'm going to fight for you. I'm going to fight harder than I've ever fought for anything. What if you lose?" "I won't." But I had no idea if that was true. The next morning, I started calling lawyers again. The 5th one I spoke to was a woman named Diana Foster. She listened to my whole story without interrupting. "This is a complicated case," she said when I finished. "You're dealing with a coordinated attack from multiple family members. The edited recordings are concerning. The fact that your ex-wife has been out of the picture for years and suddenly wants custody is suspicious. But proving all of that in court is going to take time and money." "How much money?" "My retainer is $5,000. And this case could easily cost $15,000 to $20,000 before it's over. I don't have that kind of money." "Have you looked into legal aid? They have a 6-month waiting list." "I'm sorry, Mr. Martinez. I wish I could help you." I hung up and called 3 more lawyers. The story was the same. Too expensive, too complicated, too much risk. I had 6 days until the custody hearing. 6 days to find a way to defend myself against a coordinated attack by my own family. On Tuesday morning, the police showed up at my apartment again. This time, there were 3 of them. Ernesto Martinez, we have some follow-up questions about the financial complaint your father filed. We sat in my living room, Danny in his room with the door closed, while they questioned me for 45 minutes. They wanted to see bank statements. They wanted to see proof that the money I had given my father was a gift and not something I was holding for him. I showed them everything I had. The transfers, the text messages where he thanked me for helping him, the messages where he claimed to be struggling financially. This doesn't prove anything definitive, one officer said, but we'll include it in our report. Are you going to arrest me? No. There's not enough evidence of a crime. But your father has the right to pursue this through civil court if he wants. They left. I sat there shaking. Even though they didn't arrest me, the fact that they had been here again, asking questions, documenting everything, would look terrible in the custody hearing. I called Grace. What? She answered. Please stop. Just stop. I'll do whatever you want. I'll give Dad the money. I'll apologize. Just please call off Corinne. It's too late for that. Grace, he's going to take Danny from me. Your nephew. Don't you care about that? I care about what's best for Danny. And right now, that's not living with someone who's clearly unstable. I'm not unstable. I'm being systematically destroyed by our father because I stopped giving him money. You're paranoid. You need help. Please. I'm begging you. The hearing is in 4 days. If you want to keep Danny, I suggest you get your act together. She hung up. That afternoon, I went to a free legal clinic at the public library. A law student looked at my case for 20 minutes and said, "This is way above my pay grade. You need a real lawyer." I can't afford one. Then you're going to have to represent yourself. How do I do that? You go to the hearing and you tell the truth. Bring evidence. Bring witnesses. Hope the judge believes you. I had no witnesses. Everyone who knew me had turned against me. On Wednesday, I got a letter in the mail. It was from the district attorney's office. My father had escalated his complaint. They were now officially investigating whether I had committed financial elder abuse. The letter said, I needed to provide documentation and be prepared for possible charges. Possible charges. A criminal record. Even if they didn't convict me, just having charges filed would destroy my custody case. I called my father one more time. What now? He answered. Stop, please. I'll give you whatever you want. It's too late. Dad, why are you doing this? I'm your son. You stopped being my son when you humiliated me in front of my community. You wanted to play games? Fine. I'm better at this than you are. I have nothing left. You've taken everything. Not everything. Not yet. He hung up. That night, I started packing our belongings. 30 days to move, but I had nowhere to go. No money for a deposit on a new place. No job to show potential landlords. No references because everyone I knew hated me. I was sitting on the floor surrounded by half-packed boxes when Danny came out of his room. Are we really leaving? He asked. Yeah, buddy. We have to find a new place. Where are we going to go? I don't know yet. He sat down next to me. It's okay if we have to live in the car for a while. I won't mind. The fact that my 6-year-old son was trying to comfort me, trying to make me feel better about the possibility of being homeless, made me want to scream. We're not going to live in the car, I said. I'll figure something out, but I had no idea what. On Thursday morning, I had to go to Danny's school for a meeting with his teacher and the school counselor. They were concerned about his behavior. His grades were dropping. He wasn't talking to other kids. He seemed depressed. What's going on at home? The counselor asked. I didn't know where to start. How do you explain that your entire family has turned against you? That your father is systematically destroying your life? That you're about to lose custody of your son because you refuse to keep funding your father's lifestyle? We're going through a difficult time, I said. Danny needs stability. He needs routine. He needs to feel safe. I know. Is there anything we can do to help? No. We'll be fine. But we wouldn't be fine. Nothing was fine. That evening I was sitting at the kitchen table, trying to figure out how to represent myself in the custody hearing tomorrow when there was a knock on my door. I almost didn't answer. I was so tired of bad news, of people serving me papers, of police asking questions, of landlords telling me to leave. But I answered. Standing there was my elderly neighbor, Mrs. Patricia Brennan. She lived in the apartment next door, and I had helped her carry groceries and mow her small patch of lawn for the past 2 years. "Ernesto," she said. "May I come in?" "Mrs. Brennan, I'm really not in a good place right now." "I know. That's why I'm here." I let her in. She sat down on my couch and looked around at the half-packed boxes. "I've been watching everything that's happening," she said, and I couldn't stay silent anymore. "I appreciate that, but I don't think there's anything you can do. I'm a retired family court judge." I stared at her. "What?" "I spent 32 years on the bench. Family law was my specialty. And what's happening to you is unconscionable." "You're a judge?" "I was. I'm retired now. But I still have connections. I still know people. And I think I can help you." For the first time in weeks, I felt something like hope. Mrs. Brennan sat on my couch and pulled out a notepad from her purse. "Tell me everything," she said. "From the beginning. Don't leave anything out." I told her the whole story. The birthday party, the rent money, the social media posts, the family turning against me, the police reports, the joint bank account, the custody petition, the eviction notice. Everything. She took notes the entire time, asking specific questions, having me show her documentation. "Your father is running a classic manipulation campaign," she said when I finished. "I've seen it dozens of times in court. He's using your sister, your ex-wife, and your extended family as proxies to attack you because you stopped giving him what he wanted. How do I stop it? We fight back. Tomorrow. In court. I can't afford a lawyer. I'm not going to charge you. Consider it a favor for a good neighbor who's helped an old woman with her groceries more times than I can count. You'd do that? I've been watching you for 2 years, Ernesto. You're a good father. You work hard. You're kind to people. What's happening to you is wrong, and I have the skills to help. So let me help." I nearly cried with relief. She spent the next 3 hours going through every piece of evidence I had. She made copies of everything. She created a timeline. She prepared questions to ask Corinne and my father if they testified. "Now, let's talk about your father's party," she said. "Do you have the original live stream video? I think it's still on Grace's Facebook page." She pulled out her phone. "What's her name?" "Grace Martinez." Mrs. Brennan typed for a minute, then smiled. "Found it. And look at this." She posted the itemized receipt from the party rental company. $12,300 for the venue, bounce house, petting zoo, catering, entertainment, and decorations. 12,000? And your father paid for all of it. According to the comments here, he wrote them a check. Do you know where that money came from? From me. The rent money I was sending him. Can you prove that? I pulled up my bank statements. Every month for 2 years, $1,500 transferred to his account. That was $36,000 total. "This is good," Mrs. Brennan said. "This is very good. It establishes a pattern of you supporting him financially while he claimed poverty. And then he spent $12,000 on a party, while telling you he couldn't afford your son's birthday." She made more notes. "What about the recordings he gave to Corinne?" I asked. "The ones where I supposedly sound aggressive? Do you remember those phone calls?" "Yes. I was angry. I had just found out he lied to me. But I didn't threaten him. I didn't say anything aggressive. He must have edited them. We'll request the full, unedited recordings. If he refuses to provide them, that makes him look suspicious. If he does provide them, we'll show they were taken out of context. What about my job? And the eviction? We'll address those too. Your father contacted your employer and your landlord to sabotage you. That's going to look very bad in court." She kept working until after midnight. When she finally left, I felt like I could breathe for the first time in weeks. The next morning, I put on my only suit and drove to the courthouse. Mrs. Brennan met me in the hallway outside the courtroom. "I made some calls last night," she said. "I spoke to Grace's ex-husband, Tyler's father. His name is Brian. He's willing to testify." "About what?" "About Grace's financial manipulation. Apparently, she's been telling him she can't afford things for the twins, asking for extra money beyond child support, while your father has been funding elaborate parties and buying expensive gifts. Brian's been paying more than he should because Grace claimed she was struggling. He's furious. He'll testify today? He's driving down right now. He'll be here." Corinne arrived with her lawyer, a slick-looking man in an expensive suit. My father and Grace showed up together, both looking confident. The hearing began. Corinne's lawyer presented the custody petition, arguing that I was creating an unstable environment for Danny due to family conflicts, job loss, and police investigations. "My client is concerned for her son's welfare," he said. "Mr. Martinez has been involved in multiple incidents involving law enforcement. He lost his job due to aggressive behavior. He's facing eviction. He's embroiled in a bitter family dispute. This is not a stable environment for a child." Then it was Mrs. Brennan's turn. She stood up, introduced herself, and I saw the judge's eyes widen slightly when she said her name. "Your Honor, I'm Patricia Brennan. I served on this court for 32 years before retiring. I'm here today as a concerned citizen and neighbor to provide testimony on behalf of Mr. Martinez." The judge nodded. "Judge Brennan, good to see you." Mrs. Brennan presented the evidence methodically. The Facebook live stream video showing my father at the expensive party. The receipt showing he paid $12,300. My bank statements showing $36,000 in transfers to him over 2 years. His text messages claiming he was struggling financially. "Your Honor, Mr. Martinez has been systematically targeted by his father because he stopped providing financial support. The father has manipulated other family members, including the child's mother, into attacking Mr. Martinez. The police investigations were initiated by false complaints. The job loss was caused by the father showing up at his workplace and causing disturbances. The eviction was triggered by the father calling the landlord to spread false information." She presented screenshots of the social media attacks, the timeline of events, the evidence of coordination between my father, Grace, and Corinne. Then Brian, Grace's ex-husband, was called to testify. "I've been paying child support for 3 years," he said. "Grace has repeatedly asked for extra money, claiming she couldn't afford basics for our children. But I see now that her father has been funding lavish parties and buying expensive gifts. I've been manipulated into paying more than my fair share while Grace's father spent thousands of dollars from money he was receiving from his son." He presented text messages from Grace asking for additional money for school supplies, clothes, and activities, while photos on her Facebook showed the twins with brand new gaming systems and designer clothes. The judge asked to hear the recordings that Corinne's lawyer had submitted as evidence of my aggressive behavior. Mrs. Brennan requested the full, unedited versions. Corinne's lawyer hesitated. "We don't have the full recordings. These were provided to us by Mr. Martinez's father." "Then, I request the court subpoena, the full recordings from the father," Mrs. Brennan said. The judge ordered my father to provide them. He claimed he didn't have them anymore. He had deleted them. "How convenient," Mrs. Brennan said. The judge was not impressed. "So you're basing your case on edited recordings that conveniently can't be verified?" Corinne's lawyer backpedaled. "Your Honor, even without the recordings, the pattern of behavior is clear. The pattern I see," the judge said, "is a man who was supporting his father financially for 2 years, stopped when he discovered the father was lying about his financial situation, and has been systematically attacked ever since." The judge asked Corinne directly, "Ms. Torres, when was the last time you saw your son before this custody petition?" Corinne shifted uncomfortably. "About 6 months ago. And before that? Maybe a year. So you've had minimal contact with your child for 3 years, and now you suddenly want custody. Why?" "I'm concerned for his well-being." "Were you concerned 6 months ago? A year ago?" "I've always been concerned. but not concerned enough to be involved in his life until your ex-husband's father called you and told you he was unstable? Corinne didn't answer. The judge looked at my father. Mr. Martinez, did you contact Miss Torres about this custody petition? My father cleared his throat. I called her because I was worried about my grandson. Did you provide her with edited recordings of phone calls with your son? I provided her with evidence of his behavior. Evidence you've since deleted and can't produce in full? I didn't think I'd need them. Or you deleted them because they didn't actually show what you claimed they showed. My father's face reddened. The judge spent 20 minutes reviewing all the evidence. Then he ruled. I'm denying the petition for custody change. Mr. Martinez will retain full custody of his son. Furthermore, I'm ordering Miss Torres to pay Mr. Martinez's legal fees. I'm also noting in the record that this appears to be a coordinated effort to use the family court system to punish Mr. Martinez for stopping financial support to his father. He looked at my father. Sir, if you have a legitimate grievance about finances, you can pursue it through civil court. But using your grandson's custody as a weapon is inappropriate and will not be tolerated in my courtroom. He dismissed the case. I stood there in shock. I had won. I got to keep Danny. Mrs. Brennan shook my hand. Justice was served today. Outside the courtroom, Grace tried to approach me. I walked past her without a word. My father called out, Ernesto, we need to talk. I kept walking. Over the next 2 weeks, things slowly started to shift. Several family members who had seen the court documents reached out to apologize. They had been manipulated, they said. They didn't know the full story. I didn't respond to most of them. A few people who had been genuinely kind before all this started. I accepted their apologies. Grace's custody arrangement was modified after Brian filed his own petition. The twins would spend more time with their father, and he would have more say in financial decisions. The police investigation into the elder abuse complaint was closed. No charges filed. Mrs. Brennan helped me find a new job through her connections. An insurance company was hiring. Better pay than the auto parts store. More stable hours. I found a new apartment in a different neighborhood. A fresh start. Danny started therapy. Slowly, he began to smile again. 3 months after the custody hearing, my father showed up at my new apartment. I saw him through the peephole, standing on my doorstep with his hands in his pockets, looking older somehow. I opened the door but didn't invite him in. What do you want? I asked. I wanted to talk. To explain. There's nothing to explain. You tried to destroy my life because I stopped giving you money. It wasn't about the money. Then what was it about? He looked uncomfortable. You embarrassed me. In front of my friends, my community. That Facebook post made me look bad. You made yourself look bad by lying. I didn't lie. I just made different choices about how to spend my resources. You told me you were struggling. You told me you couldn't afford Danny's birthday party. Then you spent $12,000 on Grace's kids. They needed it more. No. You liked them more. There's a difference. He was quiet for a moment. Grace's kids are easier. They're not as sensitive. They don't need as much attention. That's because they have 2 parents who love them. Danny only has me because his mother left. And you decided he wasn't worth your time because he needs more support? That's not what I'm saying. That's exactly what you're saying. And it's exactly what you told me in your living room 3 months ago. You said Danny was hard to love. I was angry. I didn't mean it. Yes, you did. And Danny heard about it. Do you know what he asked me? He asked if he was hard to love. A 6-year-old child asking his father if there's something wrong with him that makes his grandfather reject him. My father looked down. I want to make things right. You can't. You tried to take my son away from me. You destroyed my reputation. You cost me my job and my home. You turned my entire family against me. And you did all of it because I stopped writing you checks. That's not fair. No. What's not fair is a grandfather choosing favorites. What's not fair is lying to your own son for 2 years. What's not fair is manipulating everyone around you to attack someone who was trying to help you. I raised you. I deserve some respect. You taught me something valuable, actually. You taught me that blood doesn't make you family. Loyalty does. Respect does. Unconditional love does. You showed me that sometimes the people who share your DNA will hurt you worse than strangers ever could. So that's it? You're cutting me out of your life? You cut yourself out the moment you decided to use my son as a pawn in your petty revenge. You don't get to be called Grandpa anymore. Grandpas show up. They keep their promises. They love their grandkids unconditionally. You did none of those things. What about forgiveness? What about family? Family forgives mistakes. What you did wasn't a mistake. It was calculated. It was cruel. It was designed to destroy me. So no, I'm not interested in forgiveness right now. Maybe someday, but not today. Your mother would be disappointed in you. That made me angry. Don't you dare bring Mom into this. She would be ashamed of you. She would be horrified at what you did to your own grandchild. She spent her whole life teaching us to be kind, to be honest, to treat people with respect. You've done the opposite of everything she stood for. He stood there for a long moment, then turned and walked away. I watched him get in his car and drive off. I closed the door and felt something release in my chest, a weight I had been carrying for months. That Saturday was Danny's 7th birthday party. I kept it simple. We rented a pavilion at the local park. I made sandwiches and bought a cake from the grocery store. I invited the few friends we had made in our new neighborhood. Mrs. Brennan came. She brought Danny a book about a boy who goes on adventures. Danny hugged her and said, "Thank you for helping my dad. You're very welcome, sweetheart. Your dad is a good man. Don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise." A few other neighbors came. People who had gotten to know us over the past few months. People who saw me picking up Danny from school every day. Who saw me helping Mrs. Brennan with her groceries. Who saw me being a present, engaged father. We played games. We ate cake. Danny laughed. A real genuine laugh that I hadn't heard in months. As I watched him running around with other kids, I thought about everything that had happened. The betrayal, the manipulation, the systematic destruction of my life by someone who was supposed to love me. But I also thought about what I had gained. I had learned who my real family was. Mrs. Brennan, who barely knew me but stepped up when I needed help. The neighbors who welcomed us into this new community. The few cousins who had apologized and meant it. I had learned that my worth wasn't determined by how much money I gave someone or how many people claimed to be on my side. My worth was in how I showed up for my son every single day. I had learned that sometimes losing everything shows you what really matters. Danny ran over to me, out of breath and smiling. "Dad, this is the best birthday party ever." "Really? Better than a bounce house and a petting zoo?" "Way better, because you're here." That simple statement, from my 7-year-old son, made every hardship worth it. Later that evening, after everyone had gone home and Danny was in bed, I sat on my new couch in my new apartment and thought about the life lessons I would teach my son as he grew up. I would teach him that integrity matters more than approval, that standing up for what's right is more important than keeping the peace, that sometimes the hardest thing to do is also the right thing. I would teach him that family isn't defined by DNA. It's defined by who shows up, who keeps their word, who loves you, even when it's difficult. I would teach him that people will sometimes try to manipulate you, to use guilt and family obligation to control you. And it's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to say no. It's okay to walk away from toxic people, even if they're related to you. Most importantly, I would teach him that his worth isn't determined by how others treat him. His grandfather's rejection didn't mean there was something wrong with Danny. It meant there was something wrong with his grandfather. I thought about my father, probably sitting alone in his house right now. He had won the battle for Grace's loyalty. He had kept his relationship with the twins, but he had lost his son and grandson in the process. Was it worth it? Was proving a point about respect and control worth destroying his relationship with his own child? I would never understand that choice, but I didn't have to. I just had to make sure I never made the same one. My phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Brennan. Just wanted to check in and make sure you're doing okay. I smiled and texted back. We're more than okay. Thank you for everything. You're welcome. You and Danny are good neighbors. I'm glad I could help. Good neighbors. That's what we were to her. Not family by blood, but family by choice. And that made all the difference. I walked into Danny's room and watched him sleep. His face was peaceful, relaxed. The worry lines that had appeared during those terrible months were gone now. We're going to be okay, buddy, I whispered. We're going to be better than okay. As I turned off his light and walked back to the living room, I realized something profound. I had spent 2 years trying to save my father from financial hardship, but in the end, I couldn't save him from himself. I couldn't make him be the grandfather Danny deserved. I couldn't force him to love unconditionally. All I could do was be the father my son needed. Show up every day, keep my promises, love him even when things were hard, protect him even when it cost me everything. And that was enough. The people who mattered, the people who were truly family, they saw the truth eventually. They stood by me when everything fell apart. They helped me rebuild. The ones who didn't? The ones who believed lies and chose sides without knowing the full story? They were never really my family to begin with. And that was their loss, not mine. I looked around my small apartment. It wasn't much. We had less space than before, less stuff, less money in the bank, but we had peace. We had safety. We had a future built on honesty and integrity instead of manipulation and guilt. We had each other, and that was worth more than any amount of money I could have given my father, more than any family approval, more than any social media reputation. My son would grow up knowing that his father fought for him, that his father chose him over everything else, that his father would rather lose the approval of the whole world than lose him. That was the legacy I wanted to leave. Not money, not a big house, not a perfect family, just the simple truth that love means showing up. It means sacrifice. It means standing firm in your values, even when everyone tells you you're wrong. It means being the parent your child needs, even when it costs you everything. I sat down at my computer and looked at Facebook one last time. I had been avoiding it for months, but I wanted to make one final post. I wrote, I learned something important over the past few months. Family isn't about blood. It's about who stands by you when things fall apart. It's about who shows up, who keeps their word, who loves unconditionally, to the people who believed lies about me without asking for my side of the story. I hope you never experience what you put me through. To the people who stood by me, who helped me, who saw the truth, thank you. You're my real family. And to my son, you are loved. You are valued. You are everything. Never doubt that. I hit post and closed the app. I didn't need their validation anymore. I didn't need their approval. I had something better. I had my integrity. I had my son. I had a few genuine people who had proven themselves when it mattered. That was enough. That was more than enough. That was everything. Before I close, I want to ask you something. Have you ever had to choose between keeping peace with family and standing up for what's right? Have you ever been in a situation where the people who were supposed to love you turned against you? How did you handle it? I'd love to hear your story in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, if you've been through something similar or know someone who has, please hit that like button. Subscribe to hear more stories about real people facing real challenges. Share this with someone who might need to hear that they're not alone in standing up for themselves and their children. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. I hope that wherever you are in your own journey, you remember that your worth isn't determined by who accepts you or rejects you. It's determined by how you show up for the people who truly matter. Take care of yourselves and each other. And remember, the people who matter will see the truth eventually. The ones who don't, they were never your people to begin with.